and trying to do it. This is my first time broadcasting all over the world.
Oh,
So
oh, really? It sounded like you had this. You'd been doing this kind of on a regular basis, and you had it all down. Oh, this is great. Then
no,
I'm honored.
I've done lots of meetings where it's just a
Yeah.
regular Zoom meeting, but then to
Uh-huh.
also stream it live and set up all these webinar parameters, it's a whole other thing.
Wow. Well, you're the guy to do it, Jonathan. I'm going to be. You're my guru. I'm gonna ask you anytime I have to do something like this. But
Absolutely.
I'm
I'm
so
planning to
honored.
do a lot more of these regularly, maybe once a month as part of our Boston, Clarinet Academy thing, which I started a
Beautiful.
few years back.
Beautiful.
I see more and more people coming into the audience. There's already 10 people in the Zoom here.
Do you know Lucia McMahon? She's writing the biography of our mentor Harold Wright.
Oh, really?
Yes,
Oh,
you should be
wow.
in touch with her because
Oh, absolutely.
she may actually join us today here because I told her about it. I sent her the link and then she's interviewing people that knew him, that worked with him, that went
Absolutely.
to
I'd
school
love to
with him.
talk to her.
That would be
I see someone named Teresa Riley here who I think you might
oh,
know.
hi, sweetheart. Yes, she's upstairs. I'm downstairs. So, yay! All right,
We got people coming in
come
here
on
from all
in.
over the world.
Nice,
And we've got about 3 minutes until it should go live on Facebook. I'll wait
beautiful.
till it goes live on Facebook before I do official introductions and so forth.
Okay,
So we can
good.
just. But yeah, Lorenzo and Peng Xing did a good job making their videos. So
Great. Look
it's
forward
this.
to
Everyone
watching that.
has to be like a computer production expert nowadays.
That's
Just
that's the new reality. It
it
totally
really
is.
is.
And it's brought out such amazing creativity in all sorts of ways, from people all over the world. I mean, Nicholas Balderu, he's just like churning it out at the extremely highest level. I don't understand how he does it, to be honest with you. You probably can explain.
He does a lot of that overdubbing stuff where he'll record multiple tracks. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I mean, he'll record all, 18 tracks
Yeah.
of him playing with himself. It's unbelievable. I just I'm astounded every time I open one of his new videos and with him playing all the different instruments and overdubbing and with the scenery and the comedy. I mean, it's just like, how do you do that stuff? I mean, it's got to be green screen or something like that.
Oh yeah, and you got to have a lot of different video editing tools in addition to audio editing tools.
Sure.
It's a
Yeah.
lot of
Well,
work. It's very
oh,
difficult stuff. I've been
gosh.
doing a lot of audio stuff for decades, so I know how to do all the audio editing. But
Right.
the video stuff
Right.
I've done, at a simple level, but not the
Uh-huh.
kind of complicated stuff that Nicola is doing.
Yeah, that's just really very impressive. And
Marie Picard just said bonjour, Jonathan, and Mr. Yeh. So happy.
bonjour, Marie.
Mr.
Excellent.
Yeh.
Oh, well, that's.
Wow.
But no, you can call me John. That's from she's in Quebec,
Yep.
way up there, Quebec City, maybe even. Yeah.
She runs that great festival up there at
Yeah.
Domaine Forget.
Oh, Domaine,
I
right.
actually had a great time up there several years back with myself and your colleague.
Jennifer.
No, Mr.
No.
Bass Clarinet,
Oh, Lori.
Laurie Bloom,
Oh, good.
and he and I were like we did master classes and all that stuff, but we were like the ping pong masters. We played doubles ping pong against all the students, and Laurie and I beat everybody.
That's awesome. Oh my gosh, I didn't realize because we used to have ping pong tables set up at Orchestra Hall, but it's sort of been retired for a while. Marie Picard. Not true. You didn't beat everybody. They probably beat most everybody, right?
I think we did. You asked Laurie.
Yes, right. Well, Laura's not going to go against what you just said.
So Facebook is now live, I think. Let me
All
it
right.
says it's live. Yeah. Okay. Good. And it's also live on about 5 other pages. It's live on the Boston Woodwind Society, etc. So maybe
Incredible.
now that we're live, I'll do some. Well, maybe let's wait another minute or two, and then I'll do introductions.
Okay.
Just to
Yeah.
let people
We'll
catch
just
up on the live.
hang out and look. So, Lorenzo, you're in Michigan, right? I spent a lot of time in Michigan. That's sort of my second home.
Yeah, I
But
saw you just did a masterclass at
Oakland University.
Oakland University. Yeah,
Yep.
I went there for a few years.
Oh, okay. Did you
Yeah,
study with George Stoffen, or
yeah,
did you?
I studied with George. Yeah.
Uh huh. Yeah, he had a really impressive class. I mean, he had a lineup of, there was a junior, a senior, and a freshman. They all played really well. I was very impressed with his level there. And yeah, my brother-in-law, Teresa's brother, lives like a stone's throw from Oakland University, and
Oh,
so
okay, like in Rochester or Troy or one of those places.
yeah, it's actually wherever Oakland University is. What's the town of that? Let me see what his actual town is. I don't even know because he just got married, and Auburn Hills.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah.
All
Auburn
right.
Hills is where his
All
where
right, I
his
think
bride
we're
has lived.
pretty live everywhere. We've got people watching. We got
Yeah.
already most of our attendees are in here in the Zoom, and we got people watching it on Facebook. So why don't we get started? I want to welcome everybody here. This is presented by the Boston Clarinet Academy and sponsored by generously by the Boston Woodwind Society. And today we're featuring the fabulous clarinetist and old friend of mine, not an old person, a very young person, but an old friend of mine, John
We
Bruce
believe
Yeh.
that.
For those who everybody knows John pretty much, but for anybody who doesn't know some of his amazing details, John, he was actually the roommate of the best man at my wedding at Juilliard, and then he got called away from school when he was about 19 years old to join this small little orchestra in the Midwest called the Chicago Symphony Orchestra. And that was back in 1977. He was the first Asian musician ever appointed, and is now the longest serving clarinetist in CSO history. And he plays every instrument imaginable. He's brought them all today if people want to see some of them.
Not my taste.
He's served as acting principal in many different orchestras, and a guest principal in Philadelphia, in Korea, in Guangzhou, China. He's won prizes at numerous competitions, and he's got lots of recordings, solo, chamber music, and is the founder and director of Chicago Pro Musica, which is a Grammy Award-winning ensemble, and also has I guess a new or different kind of music ensemble with his wife Teresa Riley and some other people, and
A couple of Chinese musicians,
uh,
string players from China.
okay,
Wang Guowei, the erhu player, and Yang Wei, the pipa player. We've got a quartet called Birds and Phoenix.
all right, and so it's bridging Eastern and Western
That's right.
different musical cultures. I see. And John, for those interested in studying with John, he's on the faculty at Roosevelt University College for Performing Arts. He's also at Midwest Young Artists, which is a great school that produces many winners of the Fischoff National Chamber Music Competition.
True.
Um,
Including my daughter
and
Molly.
and John has some amazing children too. He's got a daughter, Jenna Yeh, who's a culinary artist and wine specialist. Another daughter, Molly Yeh, who I met at the Fischoff competition.
Right.
An amazing percussionist, but now hosts her own national TV show on
International. It's on the
international.
Food Network. It's called Girl Meets Farm. So she's into food also. And then of course my youngest daughter Mia is in high school, but she's multi-talented.
Great,
she,
super.
she cooks, she draws, she plays the piano, she plays the flute, although she doesn't like to. It's a rebellion against mom and dad.
Of course. So for today's class, for everyone who's watching, the format is we're going to start. We have two students. One is Pengxing Zhao. He's from Shandong province in China, and that's where he is right now. And then another one is Lorenzo Makuha, who is in Southfield, Michigan, right outside of Detroit. They're both master's degree students at the Longy School of Music of Bard College. Pengxing is going to start because it's very late in China, and his parents don't want him playing too late. And he's going to play part of the first movement of the Brahms Second Sonata, and we're going to play a 3-minute video of him, and then he's going to work live with John. Then after that, we'll take some questions on that piece, and then we'll do the same with Lorenzo. Lorenzo's going to play the Widor Introduction et Rondeau by Charles-Marie Widor. And again, a 3-minute video will play, and then he'll work live with John. We'll take some questions on that. And then at the end, 20 minutes of questions just for John, whatever you want to ask. For people in the audience, you can put your questions in the Q&A, and you can upvote things if you want. So if you like that question, just click the thumbs up sign. And if I see questions that have lots of thumbs up, I'll go to those ones first. If you have comments other than questions, you can put them in the chat. And if you, if you raise your hand or when you put questions in the Q&A, say, if you want to, say what country you're from or what city you're from, so we know, we get an idea where people are and so forth. So I'm going to start first by just playing Pengxing's video, and I'm going to share with you the music as well, so you'll be able to see the Brahms Sonata music. Let me just get this started. There's the window. Go to this one, and I'm going to share my screen, and hopefully you should all see this. We'll know in a minute.
While Jonathan's doing that, I wanted to thank him and thank the Boston Clarinet Society for inviting me. Jonathan says that this is his inaugural worldwide broadcast from all these different platforms, and I find that extremely impressive, and I'm honored to be here, and it's just so amazing to the idea that during this corona cloud we can have this incredible silver lining of visiting and hearing people from all over the world. So I thank you all for being here, and maybe we can get a chance to share where you're coming in from in the chat and in the question and answers. So
Great.
This is great. I've been looking forward to this for a while, and I'm very excited to be here.
Super. We're very excited to have you, John.
Awesome.
Okay, here we go. I'll share the screen now. And now I'm playing, we're going to play Pengxing's video first. So you should be seeing that on your screen now. Is everyone hearing and seeing that? Yes? Okay, I just wanted to make sure. Great. Okay. So that's the 3 minutes of that.
Beautiful, beautiful Peng Xing. Thank you for playing. That was really gorgeous. I wanted to ask you, have you had a chance to play this through with a pianist?
Yeah, I had a chance to play pianist
Yeah.
about a years ago.
Uh-huh. So
Yeah.
anytime we play music that involves collaboration, we want to always have in our mind exactly what the context is. So you want to know everything about what's going on in the piece. The way you like interweave with all the other parts. So the piano sometimes is playing, maybe 10 times as many notes as we are at the same time. So you want to be aware of the piano's dynamic range, coloristic range, articulation range, everything like that. You want to have it ingrained in your mind's imagination. So when you're playing at the very beginning, the piano is playing this rolling eighth note figure. So when you're playing quarter notes or when you're resting or something like that, the piano is still playing. So you want to key into that because that's the rhythmic basis, okay? And sometimes the piano is flexible, it's not rigid, it's not metronomic. So you want to be able to know that before you start to play. And so also when you come to rests, you have 2 measures rests, sometimes 3 measures rests. Everybody who's familiar with this piece is going to be thinking, what's going on there? The piano is playing, big solo, and so you want to be able to know that you're on the same page as we are. So I would recommend that anytime you're practicing a piece that has accompaniment, in this particular case that has a piano, have the score nearby when you're studying it, and look at the score, even play from the score, because that'll give you a real clue as to how to play your own part. And I mean, not only when to come in and when to, direct your rubato, but also how loud and how thick and how thin you are to play. So the dynamics also. So you have a very, very beautiful, refined tone quality. And I think in this piece you can make use of a bigger dynamic range because the piano is certainly going to have a way bigger dynamic range. So do you want to start playing at the very beginning right now, if you have your clarinet warmed up? And
Okay.
when you're, do you have the music, do you have the score nearby? The piano score. If you have the piano score, it's very helpful because then you can know exactly what's going on when you're, yeah, perfect. Do you think you can start at the very beginning and then play from the piano score and take a look and see what the piano is doing? Because that will give you a lot of information that all of us need to hear from you. If you're not playing with a pianist live in person, at least bring the pianist with you. And this is what I tell to everybody when you go to an audition, for example, an orchestra audition. If you're playing orchestra music, you want to be able to impart to the listener, to the committee, you want to communicate exactly what's going on in the orchestra, whether you're playing or not. And it will determine how you deliver your part. So the same thing goes for here. The other thing I wanted to mention is anytime Brahms wrote a slur, he was very, very specific, So if he writes a slur, he means it's a bow. So ti da di da da di da dum, ta di da din, ta di da dim. And those kinds of bowings are audible when you make the bow change. So it's like diction when you're singing. If you are singing a song, some words are going to have consonants. It's just like when you're speaking. I'm going to like make a consonant like this. And when you have a change in bow or a change in direction of slur, you also have to make sure that we understand that that's a consonant. Okay? I noticed that you could do more of that when you play your part. Okay? There are various different ways of articulation that will make your consonants more understandable. Okay? Let's start from the beginning. If I think of anything as you're playing, I'll stop you and I'll let you know.
Okay, should we watch the piano score or
Yeah,
just
watch the piano score if that's comfortable for you. If it doesn't go well, then we can go back to the. But I think it'll be very, very helpful to you to watch the piano score, because what's the piano doing at the beginning? Take a look. Constant eighth notes, right?
yeah.
So you fit into that, and it's going to be fluid. You know, it's going to be like sort of like a river. You know.
Yeah.
Okay. Let's start.
Okay.
Yeah. So here's an example, Pengxing. When you go to the ta, the low F, ta, that's a new bow. So you don't want to slide into it. You want to dee da da dee da da dee da da dee da da ta. It's like it takes a little bit of time. Dee da da dee da da dee da da dee da da ta. It takes that amount of time to change direction. It's different. It's completely different from dee da da dee da da dee da da dee da 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 da, right?
Yeah.
So I want you to
So-
show that difference. You know, it's like sorry. So I should probably know this better. Just try that much. Try from the pew piano. Yeah, so I didn't hear an actual ta. You have to do a consonant on ta. Just start with that note. Yeah, I want to hear it just that way. So just do that much. Just stop on the low F.
Okay.
Yes, that is the amount of time you need to change bows, okay? And that's what he wrote. He didn't. And the other thing is, this big interval is slurred, so you don't want it to sound like. And then you re-articulate the top note too, right?
Yeah.
So all of these changes in bows are very, very important in any music, but particularly in Brahms, because he was less concerned with the meter than he was with the phrase. So phrasing is utmost important, and that is communicated through the bowing in Brahms very often. I want you to go back to the beginning now and just think of how the pianist is playing. I'm thinking that, what's the tempo marking for this piece?
It says Allegro amabile. I don't.
Allegro
know.
amabile.
Yeah.
So whenever you see a marking like that, you probably want to get familiar with what it means. So what's allegro? Allegro is like
Yeah.
fast, right? Fast, sort
Yeah.
of fast, you know, moving. It's not presto, it's not, you know, vivo, it's allegro, moving, you know. And then amabile, what's that mean?
A little bit freedom. Uh,
Amabile is like friendly. It's like a friendly
yeah.
allegro. So it's not too slow, it's not too fast, it's friendly. So you're smiling, you know. So make sure that you can be flexible with the piano because the piano is not going to want to go as slow as you, frankly, as you went at the very beginning. They're going to go da da dee da dee da da dee dee da dee da da. So try to, first of all, give your tempo. So you give the upbeat. Like that. And then
Okay.
follow the flexibility of the piano, okay?
Okay.
Try. Okay, so here, I think it's a little bit too stuck in quarter notes. You want to think of this as a little bit of a waterfall. Dee-da-dee-da-da-dee-dum-dum. Sing it to me, because a lot of times when we play, we're more concerned with when and where to put our fingers down rather than how to tell a story, okay? And I think in this
Yeah.
particular case, we want to tell a story. You know, what is it? It's like this little rolling waterfall or a stream or anything you can think of, you know, a friendly dog that's walking through your yard or anything. But it's not simply about da da dee da 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 da. It's a little bit too dry if we think about it that way, okay? So sing
Yeah.
dee da dee da da dee da dum, like that.
Dee la dee la da dee da dee dee da. Yeah.
Da-deem, da-dee, da-deem. So it's almost like, think about it in two, you know? One, da, two, da, da, one, and two, da, da, dee. If you think of the phrasing like more in two rather than one, two, three, four, it will have a little more flow to it. And I think the pianist will be very much more comfortable.
Yeah.
Okay, one more time.
Okay. Sorry.
Dee da dee da dee da. Bing da 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 dum bum bim bum bim da 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 dum bum bum bum. Nice. There we go. So I sang to you what the piano has a big solo. This is one of the you know, more involved solos in these pieces for the piano. A lot of times the piano is scared here. I mean, you know, but a good pianist will take enough time to Bum ping ta 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 tum. Bum ping ta 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 tum. Here's the place where I told you they have 10 times as many notes as we do. So this part, we have to know how they're. A lot of energy here, a lot of passion, a lot of sound. And so, do you know what I'm talking about? You want to be able to show the listener that you're crescendoing to that. Da da dee dum, da da dee dum, da da dee da dum, da da dee bum bum ba 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 bum, and then have that. Is that playing in your mind? Can you hear that?
Yeah, I
You
can hear
have
a
to,
little bit.
because you have to hear it so strong that you feel it. Because when the piano plays it and you're standing in front of the piano, that is like, oh, that's got to be something that's like a whirlwind. If it was just a nice little brook at the very beginning, a little river, now it's a waterfall. Tum, ta, 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 tum, pum, pum. And then you. So it's a long diminuendo. So you have to start more there, because the piano is
Yeah.
already setting the stage for you. So and you see how I changed bows? T da da dee da da, T da da dee da da, T da da dee da. Those are opportunities for you to reinforce the energy. Okay, so start
Yeah.
at the top of this waterfall. And make that amount of dramatic contrast. Okay, so start on your high C.
Sorry about the 40, because it's 11:30 p.m. in China, so
Okay.
I don't want to annoy my
Okay,
neighborhood. Yeah.
that's fine. Just
Yeah.
okay. All right, I understand. We don't want to bother anybody that's sleeping. Okay,
Yeah.
but you understand what I'm talking about. When you
Yeah, I know.
start this phrase, it has to be plenty of energy and passion and sound, and then you can come down and gradually reduce and diminuendo. But you have to show that range of dynamics to show the dramatic range too, okay?
Yeah.
Now go on to. Do you see how this phrasing is also related to the bowings? If you sing it, you automatically get the way each note is shaped. I wish we could go on for a lot longer here, Pengxing, but I just got the boss has told me that we don't have much time left. So
Okay.
if you have any questions, maybe now is the time to ask them. Do you have any questions?
Yeah, I think the river feeling is very good. Example to feel this piece. Yeah, I think
Tell a
it's
story,
great.
no matter what it is. Always you want to tell a story when you're playing something, I think to have an image, and part of the image here is going to be how does a piano feel? When you're standing in front of a piano, they're not going to always be. They go pum pum ta 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 dum pum pum pa 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 pum. Anybody that's played this piece with a pianist knows that this is where the piano, either crashes and burns or is majestically in charge. Okay, so that's
Yeah.
for you to internalize. You have to show that you know about this, and
Yeah.
and just it goes way beyond just counting the measures of rest.
Your
Yeah.
suggestion about feeling it in two is great, and the thing about the piano with my students, I normally have a master class each week with piano, but COVID this year everyone's in different places. But you're right. Knowing the piano part is so critical to understanding any piece of music.
Critical, and that's why you have your score. I'm very proud of you for having the score handy, because now, while your parents are asleep, you, because you're so excited, can look at the score and sing to yourself in your mind's ear. This is a very important part of practicing, is before you even take your instrument out of the case, open the music and study and look at it and find out, where is the piano playing 10 notes and I'm waiting for it. Absorb it. Know how these huge chords sound, and then be able to build my part along with that. It's all part of the context. Context meaning what's going on throughout the whole thing. Okay? It's really, really very, very vital to your music education.
So why don't we take a few questions now from the audience about, put them in the Q&A, about the Brahms, about this piece. I see some questions in there already which are more general ones, which we can do later on in the session. But let's do something more specific. I see one here actually from an old friend, Carmen, which is actually a general one, but it's also related to Brahms. She says, Carmen Bodegales, who comes from Venezuela and who's currently doing her doctorate in Columbia, South Carolina, I guess, asks, what do you think about the use of vibrato? And we know that there's actually a close relationship of vibrato to this piece, in fact.
So, yes, apparently we heard that Mühlfeld, who is the dedicatee of these sonatas and Brahms's personal friend, used vibrato in his performance, and he started his career as a violinist. So in the court orchestra, what was the name of that? Not Mannheim, but
Meiningen.
Meiningen Court Orchestra. He was a violinist in that, and then he took up the clarinet and became one of Brahms's favorite instrumentalists. So using vibrato came sort of as a natural phenomenon, because every violinist needs to use vibrato because that's a part of the violin sound. For us, for clarinet players, it's a little bit of a spectrum, you know. We don't always need to use vibrato because of the way the overtone series is constructed on the clarinet. You know, we only hear the odd partials. That's an acoustical phenomenon. But for those instruments that have odd and even partials, you need to vary the intensities to be able to make the sound more lovely to hear. For us, we can use vibrato like a singer does, and I would say that's the way to utilize it. Oh, hi, Jesse. He has I know Jesse Williams. Can I answer Jesse's question?
Yes, that was the next one I was going to read.
Oh, good. Thoughts on the pacing, the 16th, the quintuplet? So since the piano is just waiting for us to get to the top here, Jesse, I just like continue the top quintuplet as though they were basically the same speed as the 16th. Something like that. It's fairly free. It has a little bit of rubato. Basically, it's just sort of like evaporation, you know, and there's nothing too sudden about anything about it. You don't want to hold the last note too long. You don't want to rush the last 5 notes. It's just, if you were singing it, because you want to lead back into the piano's giving the main theme. So Kalamazoo, my home away from home. That's where Teresa's from, and we go there often. So yeah, I miss you, Jesse. It's great to see that you're here. Does that answer your question? Hopefully that's it. I mean, because the piano is just waiting for you, you have a lot of freedom in that measure. So there's a lot of possibilities. I personally like to think of it as just a cascade of evaporation.
Right. Yeah, it's not one of those. The five tuplet at the end is not a rhythmic element per se. It's he needed that many notes to finish the chord, and that was
Precisely.
the easiest
That
way
is
to write.
exactly right. Exactly right. It's not just, you know, dum. That's not the way you'd want to approach it.
Right. Great.
All right. Great.
Well, why
Who
don't
else?
we go? There's a lot more general questions, which we'll do after the next one. But let's go to the next piece
Cool.
now.
Yeah.
So next up we have the V-door, and let me re-promote. Where is Lorenzo? Where are you, Lorenzo? There you are. I have to put him back on the stage.
Right.
So I'm putting Lorenzo back on the stage. I'm going to take Peng Xing off the stage.
Bye, Peng Xing.
Bye, Peng Xing. But you'll still be here.
再见.
Yeah.
谢谢
bye.
你.
He'll be in the audience. And then I'm going to play, now I'll play, and I'll pull up the V-door music and play Lorenzo's 3-minute video.
Great.
Okay, so let's pull that up. Where is it? Lorenzo, there. And we're going to share the screen. Lorenzo and the music. Go share. Can you see that now?
Yep.
And we'll play. Tell me if you hear the sound or. Great.
Wow, that
Bravo.
was beautiful. Wow, that was virtuosic and moving. It was very, very beautiful. Thank you, Lorenzo. Wow. I don't know. I don't know what I can say to make it better because
Oh,
it's
I'm
so.
sure you can find something.
Well, okay. It's you just really have captivated our imaginations here, and I think that's the point of any musical performance is to make a communication with your audience, and you did it. I mean, you drew us in, you told the story, you sang. I think the singing quality is so lovely. Um, you're just I, I'm really taken by your playing. One of the things I noticed that, and maybe it's just because it's up close and things like that, sometimes you have a tendency to lose some air, like the leakage from the mouth. That's something that you want to probably pay attention to because you don't want to leak any air because not only is it um, sometimes distracting, but also, you could use that air for good musical purposes. So I think maybe just like thinking about keeping a good seal around the mouthpiece is good. You never want to compress the reed. You don't want to close the reed at all, but you want to don't let any of the air leak out. Um, Gosh, dramatically, dynamically, just everything about this had such great communication. Maybe if we start at the beginning, and anything occurs to me, then I'll stop. I'll stop you. If you want to start at the beginning one more time, and then
Sure.
when anything occurs to me, I will. But bravo. This. Have you performed this piece with the piano?
No, actually, I've never played this piece.
Hmm.
I wanted to learn. I've always wanted to learn it, so I asked to
Yeah.
learn it this
Yeah.
semester. But I've listened to recordings, but I actually don't have my score with me because my music is kind of not in the state right now. So
Yeah.
I'm
So
working off the clarinet part.
okay, so this would be helpful to do is to get a score. It shouldn't be too difficult to find the piano score because that might help you. Some of the rhythmic freedoms that you are given the opportunity to take sometimes may not be optimal if you don't know precisely what the piano is doing. So I would say that would be a really important next step is to get the piano score and to study it and know how you're going to deal with the various different rubatos. And he says, you know, uh, uh, ad libitum or you know what whatever.
Yeah, it says a piacere.
A piacere,
Yeah,
exactly. At your
piacere.
pleasure. Places like that, you want to know exactly what the context is to do that. But if this were an unaccompanied piece, boy, you really got my attention, and that was nice. Um, so let's go back to the beginning. You have this cadenza. Presumably, the piano is just kind of waiting for you, with a chord. And so let's start.
Okay.
Okay, Lorenzo, let me just say already from here, I think we can use our upper lip to make a better seal around the mouthpiece because I do hear some air leakage, you know. That big 2 octave skip particularly requires more activity in your upper lip, okay? So the upper lip should always be active, whether you're playing a single note, whether you're playing an interval, or whether you're playing scales or fast things. The upper lip should always be active. So never let it just kind of like flop there. I use both my lips. I play double lip. And because of that, I'm able to be more sensitive because if I keep one single pressure, it might hurt so much. So the double lip embouchure gives you the opportunity to activate the upper lip, and it reminds you that you have to do so. And that gives you much more of an openness of the reed, because the air, when it activates the reed, needs to be reed needs to be unhampered, constricted. So if your air is leaking out, that means, I think, your upper lip, it's an indication. It could be like a warning that I think your upper lip could be more active, you know? So let's start with that cadenza at the beginning. And every time you do these big, think of just how you're going to move all the air to the reed and not let any of it get out. Okay? You can go slower if you want, just to pay attention to that. All right? Let's start one more time. Good. That's a lot better. And I think if you make that a habit of reminding yourself to activate the upper lip and just trying to make sure that you don't lose any air, it's going to be good for you, because it also is a habit that you can not pay attention to and be totally unaware that you're leaking air. So it's good to listen to your recordings and say, oh gosh, what is that? Oh, it's air leaking out. Because it's easy to filter that out. You don't want to filter that out. You want to be aware of that so you can prevent that from happening, okay? You have a little bit of dropouts on your electronics transmission.
Yeah,
I don't know whether it's something to do with your audio settings.
It's probably my internet, just because it says it's unstable sometimes.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not that fast right
Okay.
now.
So
you
didn't
didn't turn that other mic back on, did you?
No, it's off.
Okay.
I unplugged it. So
Okay.
yeah.
All right. Let's go to the theme now.
The theme. So the
Good. So let me just stop. When you're going over the break like that, so from throat G to B or to C, it's a combination of three things actually. Number one is making sure the air is at the reed to do so, and not closing the reed, so keeping your embouchure, your upper lip active. And also, as much as you can, keep the right hand down. So if you're going on open G, you can actually be closed on your entire right hand. So anytime you have the opportunity, get your right hand down before you have to bridge the gap. Do you see what does that make sense to you? So I would recommend, so when you play G, automatically have your right hand go down. So all you have to do is just worry about closing 1, 2, 3, 4 holes instead of 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 holes. Do you see? Closing 8 holes at a time is a tall order. And if you can reduce that by 50%, I would do it. So let's start at the just. Yeah. I think that's it. I think that'll be a real advantage. Anytime you're going over the register break, have as much of the right hand down as you can without affecting the pitch. Okay, good. Do that one more time. And also, as you're going over this interval, and this interval, do that interval slowly enough. This is kind of a painstaking but very necessary way of connection. You want to make this connection so smooth and unbroken, and it involves coordination, it involves synchronization of air, embouchure, and finger. So do it slowly so that you'll know that you'll bridge the gap. So let's just do the throat G to the C above that. Yeah, and avoid any air leakage. Ah, you know, you moved your top lip just ever so slightly down. I think here's another thing for everybody. This is called the fulcrum of the reed. It's where the reed and the mouthpiece diverge. Okay, there's a curve in the mouthpiece, and then when the reed is flat against it, it's below the fulcrum, and when it diverges, it's above the fulcrum. So you want to put your lower lip no closer to the tip than the fulcrum. So sometimes a millimeter of more mouthpiece will give 50% more resonance, because what's happening when you put your lower lip closer to the tip of the reed, you're closing, you're preventing this amount of vibration. So you want just that little bit, and I could see it. You moved your mouthpiece in a millimeter, and I could hear it. The resonance and the connection was dramatically improved. So I would recommend going over. And even this. These two notes, A and B, so far, yet so close, you know, because they're at opposite ends of our instrument. A is the shallowest note we have, besides B flat. And then B is the deepest, the longest note. The air has to go all the way through. So in order to make these two notes seem closer together, we have to do a lot. We have to give every advantage that we have. Maximum resonance of the reed, maximum air focus, and just maximum activity in the. So that is a great exercise. Even though it seems so simple, I think it will develop your sensitivity and your ability to produce resonance between these two registers. It's the next step that, you know, we're always going to be refining these connections. So certain intervals are much more difficult than others, and going over the register break for all of us is the biggest challenge. So that's what I do. Activate the upper lip, keep the right hand down as much as you can when you go over, and just make sure your air is focused. I think you have no problem with your air. Your air is you have good air traffic control, which is very, very important for everybody. It's the number one importance. But the other things can be very, very helpful. Okay, let's do that one more time and continue. Start with the theme.
Sorry, I have to think about my lips now.
Beautiful. No, that's great. I mean, it's good to actively think about those things when you're practicing, because then when you're performing, it'll be second nature. So that is the way to practice. Just take that portion out and work on it. Sometimes it's just 2 notes. Sometimes it's 1 note. All those things just have such an impact on just connection and legato. But other intervals are much easier. You know, you have no problem with intervals that are next to one another. It's just going over the break. Any questions? I think.
Yeah, I mean, so there's a few other things in this piece. Like one thing I always seem to have a lot of trouble with is like, you know, going from like kind of the middle register to like so bit like there's like B to B octave.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like that, and sometimes I know there's like a certain position I gotta keep and all of that, but like sometimes I still get a lot of like, you know, undertone and fuzziness and all of that, and it's just, you know, it's good. It seems to be like as the piece goes on, it gets worse. I don't know if it's just my concentration.
Well, it could be fatigue, and it could be the necessity to actually develop more control and musculature in the upper lip. I would say that your upper lip musculature can be developed. And the way to do that is to do long tones and slow intervals. So if we're talking about, as you go to the upper register, you might think of just like pushing the mouthpiece a little bit more in. The higher you go, the bigger the vibration of your reed needs to be. So you need to make sure that your reed is completely unclosed. It's completely open, not unclosed, but like you don't want to ever constrict it. Unconstricted reed is absolutely vital, particularly when you get to the high notes. And then the way to help that is by activating the upper lip and making sure you get enough mouthpiece. You know, for high C, you want to make sure you get your entire reed exposed in the mouth. Like that. If you have it even a little bit, even a quarter or an eighth constricted, you get that undertone. So high notes, all you have to do is just put the mouthpiece in more. You want to try that? Can you do high C?
Yeah,
Yeah, shove the mouthpiece in way more than you think it's going to need to be.
Yeah, I had to open up a little bit and use this top lip because I felt like I was biting first and then stop that and then.
Yeah, you need to do that. To let the reed be free. And one of the things that I've found is a good diagnostic is if you use the mouthpiece itself. It should produce a concert C. If it produces anything higher, then it's an indication that you might be constricting. If it's like a C sharp, that means you're closing the reed. So try that, just for an exercise. Everybody should do this. Yeah, and if it's any lower, then that might mean that your airstream is too diffuse. So make sure that your reed is wide open and your airstream is a beam. the beam of air that directs right to the like a little box, 1 millimeter box below the tip of the reed. And see if you can hold that steady for like 20, 30 seconds. Yeah, so that's one of the things that you can do, and then when you put the mouthpiece back, you can do that with whatever notes you want to, and the long tones will help develop the musculature of the embouchure. So these are things that you can do to strengthen the upper lip, and then you listen for any things that might be evidence of air leakage, and that will be your indication to engage your upper lip, you know, to involve it in anything. And then your big intervals going over the break, are things that you can practice to further refine the connection and the legato. So those are things that you can do. The upper register, you know, it's just a matter of practice. It's just a matter of one of the things about the upper register is they are all products of a lower fundamental. So if you want to play high C, you can finger just throat F. Or if you want to play high G, all of those are overtones that come from a fundamental. So this is a good way to practice the centering and the focus of higher notes, is by reducing it to the fundamental fingering and then making sure that you aim your air to produce that that higher note, and it also make you encourage you to keep your reed open. So those are all different things, but long tones, see if you can kind of maintain a floating high note would be really, really a good thing for you, because it will encourage you to activate the upper lip all the time. All right, bravo for your music making, bravo for your virtuosity, and then all you need to do is just like develop these execution devices to help you you know, realize your plan. Bravo.
Yeah. Bravo, Lorenzo. Good job. Yeah. Great. Yeah, you know, that's what I remember the summer at Tanglewood, John, when you started doing double lip. I remember you talking about it. You said you were switching over, and Harold had showed it to you, and so forth. And I always stuck with single lip myself, but I think what you said, all the stuff you said about, you know, using your upper lip is just as important with single lip embouchure too.
Absolutely. You have to involve your upper lip. It's, you know, it's more than half of your embouchure, you know. If you don't use that, then you're ignoring, you know, half of your ability to produce color and to produce range and to produce dynamics and articulation. All of those things come from the entire musculature there.
Absolutely. Well, let's go to there are lots of questions, and so let's just go down the list. I'll start with the one that was upvoted the most. It's kind of a general question, and it's kind of a big one. But it's, you know, what are your thoughts on, over the years, on a setup that yields the best focus, centered tone, projection, resistance, flexibility, and least amount of effort to play in terms of what this person calls the American orchestral sound, if such a thing exists?
Sure. Okay. Yeah, that's from Gary, right? Okay,
yeah,
so
right.
Thanks for that, Gary. You know, over the years, I've played on varying different setups. When I was first in the Chicago Symphony, I'd just been playing a Van Doren 5RV lyre mouthpiece, and that's a pretty good standard mouthpiece for, you know, students and beginners to play on, and it gives a good balance. But then as I was in the orchestra, I found the need for more depth and more projection. And in our orchestra, those things are really necessary because we have a stage that doesn't help us out from those points of view. So I changed when the M13 Lyre mouthpiece came out from Van Doren. I decided to go with that because you know, I'd met Donald Montanaro, who was the originator of that series of mouthpieces, and he said, "Here, try this," you know. And I did, and I felt, wow, this really does promote both of those things I was looking for: more depth, more projection. And then as I went along, I found the need for a little more color and a little bit more flexibility. So then I tried the B40 Lyre mouthpiece. These are all products that you can get, you know, on an instant's notice from Van Doren, and they are so consistent. I tried 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. They're all pretty much identical. And so what I do is I'd get 3 of these mouthpieces and keep one at Orchestra Hall, one at home, one at school. And so I wouldn't need to bring any instruments. So, and over the years, you know, I started out when I joined the Chicago Symphony in 1977 on Buffet R13s. That was the instrument that I used throughout college, and so I joined the Chicago Symphony. Then very shortly after I joined the Chicago Symphony, our clarinet section developed a relationship with Yamaha, because Yamaha would come into Chicago, and they had a relationship with a trumpet manufacturer here, the Schilke trumpet manufacturer. So we got into the kind of like yearly process of getting together with the gentleman from Hamamatsu. The clarinet designers would come in from Japan and bring in what they'd just been working on, and they would ask for our advice. They would ask for our feedback. So we'd play them. And then in 1990, they said, you know, we've been, so this has been about 18 years already. We'd like you to consider using the Yamaha clarinets exclusively. And I said, well, you know, I can consider that. And so I did, and I stuck with it. And I think any change that you make equipment-wise, whether it be a mouthpiece, whether it be a new clarinet, you want to give it time. You want to give it at least 6 months. So every time I changed mouthpieces, I'd always keep my old mouthpiece around just in case I wanted to go back. But I never really did want to go back. Most recently, it was to the BD5 that Van Doren has come out with. And so all these have been sort of like trial period for 6 months, and if I like it, I continue. And it's the same thing with the Yamaha clarinets, you know. Most recently, you know, I've been through various different models that they make. Most recently, maybe 3 years ago, I changed to a model called the CSVR. And that's what I've been using in the orchestra and in solo playing, and I really like it because of all the things you mentioned. The flexibility, the stability, the depth, the focus, and the tuning. All of those things combine to be very well balanced. And I think a balance is the key. So one of my sort of my motto is balance is the key to life. So a lot of things I you know, believe in a balanced diet musically, you know, like to play orchestra, like to play chamber music, like to play solos, like to play new music, you know, all different sorts of things. A balance is a real key. So when you can get all these, the reed, the mouthpiece, the ligature, you know, I like to use you know, well, you can see from my jacket, I'm a Van Doren artist, and I've been with Van Doren for maybe 25 years now. You know, I used to play on different reeds, and they were fine, but Van Doren said, you know, we'd like you to come back to Van Doren and see whether you like our products. And at that point, the reeds had become so much more consistent. You could now you can open a package and put it on, and it'll work. You know, in the old days, you open up a box, and you'd have to kind of like sort through all of them, and maybe 2 or 3 would work, and then the rest of them you people would throw them away. I never throw away a reed. I put them in the drawer, and then, you know, maybe they'll work in a different weather condition. In Chicago, we have various different climate conditions, and we also have to have different reeds that are appropriate for the you know, the season.
Looks like Jules Elias has his hand up, so I'll let him talk. Then we
Great.
should be able to hear him, so, and maybe even see him. So Jules, did you want to ask your question out loud? If he's there. Are you still there, Jules? I don't see him. Well, let's go to another written question here. So there's a bunch of different ones on practice techniques and different recommendations for improving different aspects of technique, whether it's tonguing or breathing or speed of tongue. Speed of tongue is, I don't know what your thoughts on this are, John, but speed of tongue is one. I always say to students, you can't actually increase the speed of your tongue. The only thing you can increase is your coordination of your tongue and your fingers. But maybe you have a different viewpoint on that.
Yeah, I've over the years developed ways to increase consistency in fast articulation. So one of the things that I learned a long time ago is that you can articulate a short string of notes very fast. It's called burst speed tonguing. My friend Michael Drapkin told me about this when he was studying with Stanley Hasty at Eastman. He said you can do burst speed tonguing for like 4 notes. So you can go, and if you can, I wouldn't ever be able to do that for longer than just 4 notes, but maybe 5 notes. Like that, and then maybe 6 notes. Like that, and you just kind of add on to the burst speed tonguing. Then there might be a speed where you can do maybe a sort of, for me it was uncontrolled double tonguing. It was like, and for me it was actually going over the tip of the reed back and forth. So, and there is a book by David Pino, P-I-N-O, that's a very valuable book. It's called Clarinet and Clarinet Playing or something like that, but it's by David Pino. And he describes this method of so-called paintbrush double tonguing, where you go over the top of the reed one way and then back. And when I was starting to do that, I would cut my tongue a lot and I'd break a lot of reeds. But eventually you'd kind of like refine the position. It's all about position. A lot of our playing is about position. Are your hands in position? Is your mouth in position? Is your tongue in position? A lot of these things, the finger position is the easiest because it's visible, but the tongue position is the hardest because it's completely invisible. So you really, really have to like create images and think about how close am I to the reed. So over the years, if you have this uncontrolled double tonguing, I would turn on the metronome and find the speed at which I could do this. And then I turn down the speed because it would be like, so I'd be able to control the motion of the back and forth like that. So, and then there would be a single tonguing speed that I could kind of like increase. So, I would turn up the speed. So there'd be this gap. Maybe my double tonguing speed could be controlled down to 132, and my single speed could be increased maybe to 112. And then there was this gap between 112 and 132 that I'd kind of worked down. I turned down the metronome for the uncontrolled and try to control my double tonguing. And then I try to, up my single tonguing speed so that I can almost do just about anything from, 144 all the way down to, the slowest
Right.
singles. But the position is very key. It's keeping the tongue as close as possible to the reed.
Yeah, it's interesting. The way I've never tried double tonguing that way. I do the traditional more like da ga da ga da ga da ga da ga da ga da, like that kind of double
Yeah.
tonguing. But the same issue of your double tonguing works well above a certain speed, and your single tonguing, it's the speed of your single tongue. It's a twitch muscle, so it's like the ability of basketball players to jump high. The guys who can do it always could do it. Michael
Right.
Jordan could always jump high. And you can do the best you can do, but if you don't, it's a genetic thing, and so you have to learn some way of doing multiple tonguing to go at the higher. There are some people, like our friend Ricardo Morales, who he's got this single tongue that can go 160, but that's a genetic freak in essence.
Unbelievable. Yeah. It's amazing. I mean, if you have that, then you're really lucky.
Yeah.
Somebody asked about keeping the right hand down. Alan Schoenkoff said that if you keep the right hand down in open G, say, going over the break, dampening the resonance and the tuning, it may. And so it really depends on the particular context that you're using it. But if it's fast, and if you're not holding it for a long time, sometimes you don't notice. But also, you want to make sure that you don't have equipment that doesn't allow you to do that. Sometimes if your throat tones are just hanging a little bit when you're playing, when you're all the way pushed in, you might want to consider getting a slightly shorter barrel. Then you have the flexibility to have the right hand down on. I always like to have at least 1 and 2 down for my throat G, and for my throat A, I always have to 2 and 3 and 2 and 3 and 4. And my mouthpiece, or my barrel, is like a 65, so I can pull it out a millimeter if I need it to be flatter. We play at 440 in our orchestra, so sometimes I do have to pull out like about a millimeter, and that doesn't affect my tuning on open G. But I would get equipment that will allow you to be closed on open G.
Yeah, you always want to have it. It's much harder to push flat throat tones up than it is to bring them down with fingering. So, right, with no fingers, you want them to be on the little bit on the high side. That makes
Well, somebody
sense.
asked about Boulez. Oh yeah.
Oh
Boulez.
yeah, Boulez. Let's hear about
Well,
Boulez.
Boulez was, obviously one of the great musicians in history, and we had the great honor and privilege of working with him as our principal guest conductor, and then later our conductor emeritus over years. And I personally had the, honor of working with him on a one-to-one basis, because I recorded his piece Dialogue, and I was one of the first people to hear Dialogue de l'Ombre Double, which is a piece that he wrote for clarinet and pre-recorded clarinet that's been manipulated. The pre-recorded clarinet part has been manipulated. So I got to, since he was here a lot, he would do a residency of 2 or 3 weeks a couple of times a year. We'd get together, we'd go out to dinner, and then he'd come over and listen to me play. And it was a wonderful, wonderful relationship that Boulez gifted our orchestra. And part of the reason was because he was such good friends with our music director at the time, Daniel Barenboim. They went way back. In fact, Boulez's debut with the Chicago Symphony conducting back in the 1960s was with Barenboim as a soloist. So they were very, very close. And so Barenboim convinced Boulez to spend more time with our orchestra, and we made many recordings of different orchestra pieces with him, including Varese, including Strauss, Mahler. We recorded both the First and the Ninth Symphony of Mahler. It was and you'd think that Boulez, he mostly concentrated on modern music, but no, he had his real his own way with music by Richard Strauss, and Schoenberg, very, very complex music like Schoenberg's Pelléas and Mélisande, Opus 5, we recorded with him. He was able to take the thickest, most complex music and dissect it and find all the important parts and then subdue all the unimportant parts. And so it comes out putting it back together crystal clear.
Yeah,
and that was
that is what you just said. For years I've taught a class in symphony, and whenever I want to learn the details of a piece, I go find a Boulez recording, because every detail, he was so careful, like exactly what you said. He balances everything perfectly and times everything just right, and it's like, oh,
absolutely,
it's amazing.
He was a master, and coming from the point of view of a composer, he wasn't trained as a conductor at all. He is a composer, and he came at it from composition and wanting his pieces to be performed properly. And so we were the beneficiaries of Boulez, and plus he was such a gentle person. He was just such a gentleman. And in his early days, when he was considered enfant terrible, in Paris, he would be like saying I don't know, like insulting things about Stravinsky, and it was like shaking up the musical establishment, and that was what he did. And then somebody asked him more recently in an interview, they said, well, you were considered enfant terrible in your younger days. Yes, he said, well, when you're on the outside, you have to bark very hard to get in. But when you're inside, you don't need to bark anymore.
Right. That's funny.
Is that good?
Yeah, he was known for that famous new
Burn
music
down all
ensemble.
the opera. Oh, right. Yeah, the Ensemble Intercontemporain.
Intercontemporain, right.
Yeah, we saw their first performances. They came to Chicago back in the 1980s and did their first performances. And that's actually when I first heard Dialogue de l'Ombre Double. I heard Alain Demian, his first clarinetist from the ensemble.
Right, Demian always played in that ensemble with Boulez, right?
Always.
Yeah.
And I was like astounded. This was in 1985. I remember it very clearly. It was a snowy day. It was precisely, 36 years ago. It was on, I think, February 25th of 1985. I heard Dialogue for the first time in a gymnasium, Patton Gymnasium at Northwestern University. I trudged through this, drove up there, very dangerous driving, trudged through driving snow, and everybody would crowd into this gymnasium. And then Alain came out and played this unbelievable piece that had the pre-recorded clarinet part swirling around all the audience. And I went, and I remember Robert Marcellus was there. And so Marcellus, he was blind, so it's like I'm leading him backstage. And, he knew Boulez, of course, from the 60s when Boulez was a principal guest conductor in Cleveland.
Right.
And so they go back way. And so we went backstage and talked to Demian. And I remember Marcellus saying, oh, it's so very good. He says, very fast. And it was a lot of very fast notes. But this piece, I decided at that moment that I wanted to learn this piece because it was so compelling. It's such a kaleidoscopic work. And so Boulez kindly put me in touch with his copyist. And at that time, I looked at the manuscript, which is what Alain was playing from. I couldn't, have you ever seen Boulez's manuscript? There are no note heads. They're only like this, and you don't know where the note is. And Alain was able to do it. So luckily, I had the first professional. Really, it looked like it was machine engraved, but this copyist that Boulez always used for his music was this woman that worked for Universal Edition, and she sent me a copy of her original manuscripts, and it's so pristine. And so I was able to learn the piece, and then like a year later, I was able to perform it using Howard Sandroff was my electronicist.
You recorded it too, right?
I recorded it, yeah.
Yeah. So
I can get the composer, I can get that album out here. I'll show it to you.
Absolutely. Wasn't that, I think that was on the Amazon charts a couple of days ago.
Where is it?
Well, John is getting his CD out. Jules, are you there?
Oh yeah, here it is.
No,
Okay,
Jules is
here's
still
one.
not there.
It's like
That's it.
Dialogues with My Shadow.
And wasn't that was up on the Amazon charts next to one of my CDs
And it's
recently? Yeah.
It had Howard Sandroff's music on it also. He was the guy that devised the computer system to be able to play the pre-recorded part, because the pre-recorded clarinet part had to be like post-produced, because some of it had very specific like instructions about reverberation or distance from the microphone, and one of the pre-recorded elements had to be played through a pedal depressed piano, so to create this this special kind of reverb. So all those things were specifically notated in the score, and it was quite a project, but it was really a it was a fantastic experience, and to work with Boulez on it. And then he invited Howard and me to go to Ojai, which is a festival in California, the Ojai Festival, to perform this live in Ojai. So we had quite a great relationship with Boulez.
Yeah, anybody who wants to learn that should go grab that recording of John's. I remember listening to that when it first came out. It's amazing.
it's really it was really a quite a project, but it's awesome music. I mean, it wouldn't make any difference if the music weren't so wonderful and told such a great story. You know, it swirls around the audience.
Another one of your recordings, I had several of your recordings I got early on. They were big inspirations to me. One was your recording of where you did all the stuff with big band, you know, the Stravinsky, Ebony Concerto, and you did the Stravinsky, and you did
Morton
the
Gould's
Bernstein,
derivations.
Morton Gould, and I learned all those pieces because of you.
Cool. Yeah, that was on reference recordings, and that was before they tore down Medina Temple, which is a recording venue that many Chicago Symphony recordings were made in. Medina Temple had amazing acoustics at downtown Chicago, and then they turned it into a Bloomingdale's furniture store, which is extremely tragic.
And didn't that recording, or was it another one? I think it was that recording also had the Babin, the Victor Babin.
Yes, that's right.
And you did that with like a band or something. And I recorded that with the piano, but
yes, that's right.
I learned it because of you. That's a wild piece.
Yeah, that's a beautiful piece. Dennis Nygren did the band arrangement of that, and so that was fun to do. That was and the storied acoustics of Medina Temple back in 1992.
Cool. Well, I think we're coming to the end here. If anybody has any other questions, if anyone is interested in some good recordings of the two pieces you just heard, I can recommend these two by this guy. I don't know if you recognize him, but this one has the V-door on it, and this is one of my early ones that has the Brahms
nice.
2 on it.
Look at who is that young, handsome looking guy. Oh my gosh. We go way back, don't we, Jonathan?
We go back
Summer
to
of 76 at Tanglewood.
76, 77, yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Amazing.
That was amazing.
We don't look it though.
No. And I think, you know, part of our secret is just continuing to connect with people all over the world, just like this. And
Absolutely.
I think it's wonderful to make these connections. And so I appreciate you all being here. Somebody asked about the reeds. I think I answered that. The Van Doren is like my one of my corporate sponsors along with Yamaha, but there's a good reason, because I really like all their products, and the ones that I use work really well for me.
Yeah, I've stuck with Van Doren over the years. I've tried lots of others, but I always seem to come back to Van Doren.
Yeah, traditional cut, blue box. And then the Optimum ligature works for me really well, because it's like two ligatures in one.
Yeah, it's a great
And
ligature.
recently, I've been playing this mouthpiece that was given to me by the maker in Taiwan. It's called Y and Phi.
Huh.
It's like Wi-Fi, and it's like I really like it. He has a whole bunch of different models, but the YM5 Z3 seemed to be very similar to the BD5, and so I'm trying this out, and I like it a lot. So anything that you can get to work with the reed and the ligature and the clarinet, it's all a balancing act, and I think
Great.
that's all.
Well, it was so much fun having you for this masterclass, John. Great to see you. Great to talk, as always. Let's keep in touch.
Always.
Like
Thanks
you said
a lot.
at the beginning, before we started, the one good thing about the pandemic is the acceleration of online Zooming technology, and we're all talking to each other a lot more than we used to, which is great. So,
Right.
hope to have you back again soon and see you again soon.
Pleasure. Thanks so much for inviting me, Jonathan. It's so great to see you always.
Thank you. Ciao, my
Bye,
friend.
everybody.